you have some news that you would like to share with us, Ben.
Hey guys. So is it possible to get that news article up, Laurie, or?
I can certainly get that up for you, Ben, yes. Let me just get that.
So I'll start by now. So last Thursday night, there was a terrible car crash up at Queensland in Tyro, and unfortunately, it is with a very heavy heart that I have to announce that Rhonda has passed away.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. Terribly difficult for you to say, and please may I pay my respects to your family and give you all the love from us. Rhonda used to come to our Connect and Shares, but she also used to come to what we had was our happy hours, and she was a light every Friday at 4 o'clock when we were able to get together and certainly share what we were going through. So it was great to have her join that, and I'm sure everyone pays their love and kindness to your family at this time, and we wish you all the best. And please, if the funeral is going to be aired, I'm sure some that connected with her more would like to be part of that.
Yeah. I don't mind blank.
That's okay, Ben. No, I think you've done a great job by telling everyone, and I certainly welcomed you here today. As a member of our family, you know, we should be sorely missed. So thank you again, Ben. And if you want to hang around, you're more than welcome, but I know you've got other things to do.
Yeah, and I've now taken over the laser skirmish business, so businesses. So
okay, great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll be in contact, Ben, and all the best. And if you need anything, you know where to reach out to, and we're here for you.
Yeah, I'm about to go play with horses, so
okay. Well, you enjoy that.
I will.
Okay, take care.
Yeah, bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, guys, so sorry about that sad news, but I wanted to ensure that everyone was aware, because I know some of you certainly knew of Rhonda and joined us in times where she would be attending on Fridays, as well as our Connect and Shares and happy hours. So again, sorry to start off with that bad news, but I felt like we needed to get that off our chest, because it actually happened last week, and it was the first Friday forum. She wasn't there, so yeah, it was like something's going on. Okay, so let me jump to the week in review, and you may have remembered from last week that we had some more discussions with the Department of Health, and this is because we're trying to get a COVID safe plan that they hopefully will endorse, and that could become one of the plans that's available on the Service New South Wales website, so that it'll be more accessible to all of our sector, but also endorsed by the Department of Health. And this is not to overdo anything you've already done, but just have another tool there that certainly working with the Department of Health may assist us in working with the other departments like education in seeing what we're doing and it's in the right means. So it's draft at the moment, and you might have seen it on my screen just a minute ago. So if I just actually jump to that, I might just go. So this is the draft here. So if you get our newsletters, you will receive a copy of this today in your newsletter. And you can see it's in the same vein of the current COVID plans on the Service New South Wales website. And it has some ideas around what we can be doing in our sector, but also is showing health that we've looked at all the other plans that exist. And there's certain components out of each one of them, as you can see in the red areas. So this is going to go to the industry today, and I ask you to have a good look at it and see if there's any comments you'd like to feed through, because you know, not any. I think there's so many eyes been over this that sometimes we miss the obvious things, and putting it out to the sector is a great way to get your feedback and information. So that we're going to ask you though, because we wanted to get it to Department of Health pretty quickly, if you could get back to us by the end of Tuesday. So this is a collaboration between the three organisations, CBA, ACA and Outdoors, NSW and ACT. So yes, that would be great if you could have a look at that, and then tell us if you are having any ideas on what we should be including there, please do so. Are you seeing my PowerPoint screen again? Just nods and be great. Yep, fabulous. Thank you. Okay, so ACT School Camps. Unfortunately, as of Thursday, we had the horrible news that ACT had put their camps back on hold due to the outbreaks, and they had a couple of cases of COVID in the ACT. So we're going to watch this space and provide more updates as they come. But as of Thursday, schools could not overnight camp at this stage. Media training, we had the media training this week, and for those that participated, thank you so much. I certainly got a lot out of it, and it was a good refresher for me, but there was some great content from the media training, and just a quick update on that is that getting the foundations right. That certainly was a key. The culture, your procedures, your collaboration and contacts, having that foundation first for anything of an unseeable incident is crucial. The second part is planning. Look at your scenarios. What could actually happen in your business, and are you ready to respond to that? You know, what is your response and who is responding on behalf of your organisation? And the third thing that Amanda took us through was tips and tools when dealing with the media. Too much content to share in a matter of a couple of minutes, but certainly well worthwhile. And there's some great ideas coming from the sector too about some collaboration in this space. The fourth item on the agenda here I just want to talk to is board nominations. They actually close today at 5 p.m. So if anyone is interested in joining the board of Outdoors New South Wales and ACT, that nomination process closes today at 5 p.m. So I ask that you get that in with your resume. We have 5 positions up for grabs. 3 positions are restanding, and we have 1 position for New South Wales and 1 position for ACT. So yes, we have that available, and 5 p.m. today is the close off. The industry forum in ACT, hopefully it's going to go ahead. Again, watching all the COVID restrictions. At this point in time, it's all looking wonderful. So 18th of August, we've got enough space for 4 square metre rule. We're all good. So if you can join us, that would be great. Next week, the National Resilience Centre is joining us, and Canberra Tourism on our forum. So now I'm going to jump to our today's topic, which is we've got 2 people here. One is Sarah Rosen from Skills IQ. So I'm going to hand over to you, Sarah, if you can. There you are, and I'll unmute you if I can. Yep, perfect. So welcome, Sarah, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Laurie. Oh, I'm just trying to stop everybody jumping from one screen to the other. I've got the, doing the old 2-screen thing, and it's making me a bit dizzy, so my heads keep doing that. I can see we've got Liz with us as well from Skills IQ. And she's on mute, but hi Liz, and no video, but that's okay. Liz and I'll talk this afternoon. And Jeffrey as well, who sits on our IAC. So I will, I've got a PowerPoint and I'm going to try and share that. So let's see how we go. Okay, let's put that over there. Never very good at these things. Always just takes a moment to get it going. Okay, so I think you're going to get the whole screen thing that I've got. Let's see if I can undo that, but oh, it's on the wrong side again. Sorry, I'm just trying to fiddle with the screens. It's gonna.
That's okay. It's often a challenging task.
Dear. Display settings. Here we go. Swap. Just duplicate it. Maybe we'll just do that. There we go. That's better. That'll do. Anyway, thank you very much for having me today, Laurie. And I'll just run through very quickly about Skills IQ, the ITABs. Liz is here, so she can talk to you about the training package stuff. She's better placed to do that than I. But let's make a start. So, Liz, feel free to pop in any time and make any amendments or corrections. So I'm the ITAB for New South Wales and for Skills IQ. And Skills IQ, I'll tell you how we separate out a little bit shortly, but we're a little bit different. But Skills IQ is the skills service organisation that puts together training packages. So they support 19 industry reference committees, which represent 90 service-related people-facing industry sectors. So we're across the service sector and a little bit more. They review 10 training packages, which deliver almost 50% of training to the Australian workforce. And they ensure that the skills are relevant for industry jobs of today and the future. So they're all involved in the development of the training package products.
Sarah, did you
a little bit there? Yeah, is it there or not?
No, not yet.
Oh, so what's okay? So we're not sharing the screen. Well, hang on a second. Oh, I see. Hang on a minute.
There we go.
You've got
it's coming
that
up
bit
now.
there. Okay, so where did it go? Sorry. Again, back to. Can you see it now?
Yes, we can. That's great.
Okay, sorry, I'll just take you back one. So that was a little bit about Skills IQ, looking after 19 industry reference committees and reviewing responsibility for 10 training packages. So then I was just going to give you a little bit of an overview of the training package development process, which you may or may not be familiar with. So I just highlighted this one here in the middle, which is the skills forecast, which identifies the needs or skill gaps in the workplace, where people identify that they need skills in a particular area that's not being met by a training package or whatever, and that will incentivise the release of a training package for review and development. Goes through to draft 1, everybody gets to consult on that, provide feedback, it's redrafted to draft 2, and then it goes through for quality assurance consultation, and then it's submitted for endorsement. It takes a bit of a process that. I'll leave it up to Liz if she wants to chime in on that and provide any further information on it. But in terms of how stakeholders can get involved, there's the workshops, the webinars, a feedback form on the website here, and through your association. So I always say to people, if you're not happy with the training product, they can feedback directly as sort of individuals, but basically get in touch with your industry association. So I've said their membership and support of your industry association and subscribing to their updates will help people keep informed. Also the industry skills forecast, and I've made mention there of the reports done by the outdoor rec sector and the Marsden Jacob report, which I've popped in there as well. So those sort of things that quantify the significance of the sector to the economy are really important. So yeah, a little bit here about the ITABs. So Skills IQ is appointed by the Commonwealth. The ITABs are actual New South Wales bodies. They have them also in other states as well. Each state has their own variation of an ITAB. We're autonomous, not-for-profit industry bodies. We work with stakeholders to ensure workforce capacity and capability through workforce planning, identify skilling opportunities. We're contracted by the Department of Education to provide that independent voice. So I like to think that we're the conduit between the department, between the SSOs and the industries. And we also feedback on training package development as well. Yeah.
Sorry, just acronyms. ITAB stands for?
Industry Training Advisory Bodies.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, that is an acronym, you're right. Yeah, we just called them ITABs, yes. So I'll give you a little bit more, but first of all, this is just a flyer. I can make that available to you, but that just lists all the ITABs. I think there's 11 of us, and it lists all the industry sectors that they look after. So the ITAB for New South Wales, we look after sport and rec, tourism, travel and hospitality, and retail, wholesale and personal services. So Skills IQ looks after a lot more training packages than that, but this is a bit of a carryover from our previous time when it was service skills. Okay, the New South Wales ITAB, that's Skills IQ, it's me basically. We provide advice to New South Wales Government on skills and training needs of the service industries across 3 industry advisory committees, which you'd be aware of because Laurie sits on the Sport and Rec Industry Advisory Committee, as does Jeffrey. Jeffrey also sits on the IRC, which is the Industry Reference Committee, and again provides that conduit between that national body and the state body, which is very important. So the 3 IACs, we have sport, fitness and recreation, nice and big there. We have the wholesale, retail and personal services, which we call RAPS, and we have the tourism, travel and hospitality. Now I just put in there what qualifications we look after. So there's 20 qualifications that are covered by sport and rec. 443 UOCs, or units of competency. That's a lot of units. But a lot of those are quite specialised because you've got things, you know, like guiding and equestrian and, you know, lots and lots of different things. 17 skill sets. So they're broken down into 4 key areas, which is sport and recreation, outdoor recreation, which has 4 qualifications, aquatics, sport coaching and sport athlete. So you can see that the retail RAPS has 4 training packages under RAPS. So they've got a retail, hair and beauty, floristry and funerals, and tourism, travel and hospitality have 33 qualifications. So a little bit about our IAC. John Norman from Outdoor Training College, you may or may not be aware of him. He's the chair of our IAC. We have Jeffrey Lehrer from Scouts, and he sits on our IRC. We have Laurie from Outdoors New South Wales and ACT, Michael, Stan, Andrew, Simon, Karen and Steve. So we have a few newer people there. I think Steve is fairly new from Sport New South Wales, and of course Laurie as well. Now, just going to give you a little bit of information. I thought you might want to know something a little bit more about what's happening in the industry. So from Tableau, Training Services New South Wales has a business portal, and you should be able to access that. So I think if you go into Training Services New South Wales, or even Google Training Services or TS New South Wales and put in Tableau, you should be able to, and again, Laurie, if people have trouble with it, I can provide you with a link to that.
Right.
But it provides you with live data on training in New South Wales. So you can get apprenticeships, traineeships, broken down by industry, broken down by a whole lot of various things. And what I've provided today is just 2 charts here. So New South Wales SNS is for Smart and Skilled. So this is the programs that come under Smart and Skilled. And SIS is the training package. So that's the sports training package. These are commencements. So one of them is, the top one is commencements from 2015 to June 2020. So it's quite current. The bottom graph is the completions. So as we know, there's a big disparity between how many students commence and how many students finish. And I think the national average is about 47%. And some industries fare better than others. So you can see there, if I can make that probably a little bit bigger for you.
So how do we compare to other industries in that dropout rate? Is it higher or lower than the average?
I'd probably have to have a little bit of a look at that. If you just look at this table, and you can see when students enrol by all the peaks, and when students complete by all the peaks. If you probably just look at where we're at the moment, you can see that the completions are pretty flat there because a lot of students aren't actually completing. So if you just ignore this year as being an aberration, and hopefully an aberration we don't see again, in actual fact, the enrolments, because there's not actually a massive take up in sport and rec quals, I think that would be the comment I would make. There's a lot of scope there. My take home message is there's a lot of scope there to expand this as a career path for kids at school, and through offering traineeships and other programs. So, you know, we've got commencements in the hundreds as opposed to a lot of our other quals across the service sector like retail and hospitality, which would be in the thousands.
Yeah, wow.
So retail and hospitality would be some of the larger qualifications. So you can search this as well to find those qualifications that have the greatest take up. So sport and rec is not actually one of those, but it's really important that we protect the quals that we've got through Smart and Skilled by, you know, encouraging people and promoting these qualifications as far and as wide as we can. Under the current circumstances, it's a little bit difficult when everything's kind of shut down. But as I keep saying to people, particularly with the school-based programs, these kids are still at school, they're still looking at doing vocational education and training. It's important that we identify career paths for that to go on to further study, whether it's at a diploma level or at university and degree level, because these kids will be ready kind of like around 2023. So that's the message we keep putting out there, is encouraging kids to take up these programs. Things aren't great at the moment, but they're not great in retail, and they're not great in hospitality, and they're not great in travel. So, you know, sport and rec, you're in there. You're not Robinson Crusoe, let's just say. So yeah, just looking at these figures here, so you can see you've got, and this is under all the sport quals, so this isn't just outdoor. I couldn't separate it out into outdoor. So we've got commencements in the last round in February this year of about, you know, 700 enrolments. Of course, those commencements won't be there yet, completions won't be there because they haven't completed. But if you're looking at completions, you're still looking at around 200, 250, which is not too bad. So if you've got enrolments at around I'm looking at an average here at around say 500, and you're getting completions that are over 200, then that's you know, almost a 50% rate. So if the national average is 47 and you're getting 50, then, you know, that's good. I think if your average was sort of 30, we'd be thinking there's a problem there. You know, we'd be trying to identify what that is. But I think you're pretty much on the national average, and that's okay. So next slide. Just looking here at what we've got in training at Certificate 2 level. So we've got 3 qualifications for Smart and Skilled providers, and then there's a traineeship as well. And we've got 27 trainees currently enrolled. Certificate 3, we've got 89 trainees currently involved. So you can see you can do it as a fee for service, or you can do it as a traineeship. Outdoor, and sometimes we don't have a training provider. So you can see outdoor leadership, there's no training providers, which is sort of an issue. We've got 20 trainees, and outdoor leadership, there's no Smart and Skilled provider, which means that either there's no demand for the qualification, or there's nobody got it on scope in New South Wales and is ready to deliver it. So we'd be looking at that. A little bit about vet in schools. There's a lot of focus, you know, there's New South Wales curriculum review at the moment, and with all the national and state-based reviews of vet and school curriculums, there's a massive focus on building capacity in schools to deliver vocational programs and to promote those to kids. So I think that's a really important message there. A lot of kids who do a VET program at school, their employment rate is vastly increased. So a lot of kids will do, you know, a course that might be just a vocational program where they have to do their 35 hours, which is basically 1 week of work experience. But even from that, 40% of kids from that will go on to get work in the industry after school. So it's a really great, what we call a taster. And it really is a feeder. So it's a very important feeder for people going on to having careers in that industry. So that would be another very important message to take away, because quite often people look at VET as, I finished school, what am I going to do now? Am I going to go to university, or am I going to go and do a vocational program? Whereas what I'm saying is the focus really needs to be in stage 5, or more importantly in stage 6, to get kids engaged in vocational programs while they're still at school. And there's a big rush for the schools to actually get these programs. And I think that's part of the curriculum review for years, well, for stage 6, they call year 11 and 12, is to open up a lot more vocational programs for kids. So this is just the summation of what's currently out there. So you can do the Certificate 2 in Outdoor Recreation as a traineeship, and an SBAT is a school-based apprenticeship or traineeship. So when they do that, that gives them the opportunity to complete either as a 1-year or over 2-year program, and have the full Certificate 2. So they can finish their year 12, they'll get their HSC, and they'll get an ATAR, may get an ATAR, and they can get a Certificate 2. So you can see also there's 2 options. One is they can do sport and rec. I thought it was sport and rec. I might have that round the wrong way. But anyway, they can get a statement of attainment. So an SOA is a statement of attainment towards the Certificate 2 in Outdoor Rec. They can get their HSC as well, but they don't get an ATAR. So there's a bit of a thing here at the moment with a lot of Cert 2s when it comes to schools not getting an ATAR. So there's a bit of a review about ATAR. There's a lot of discussion in the media about, you know, what an ATAR should look like, because an ATAR is 1 mark. After 13 years at school, all you get is 1 mark. And everybody seems to be built in around that. Is that enough? Maybe kids should be leaving school with a broader experience. Yeah. Anyway, so yes, that SOA Certificate 2 they can do, it equates to 2 units, and they can do that in 1 year. And a unit is kind of like, or 2 units is 120 hours. They call it in school terms 120 indicative hours. So it has to be a course that fills 120 hours. Mm-hmm. Then you've also got the option of doing the outdoor recreation as an HSC VET course, and they can do the Certificate 2 in outdoor recreation, get an HSC and no ATAR, but they can get a full Certificate 2. The Certificate 2, and you're probably, it'd be interesting to hear your comments from your members, but Certificate 2 is kind of like the entry point. So some programs only offer Certificate 2, but there is a sort of a thing at the moment about whether or not Certificate 2 is adequate. Now, Certificate 3 might pose some problems. I think Certificate 3, we have issues with fitness because they can't do certain things. They can get like a statement of attainment, which means if there's some component of it they can't do, by the time they finish their schooling, they've got a statement of attainment, and then maybe they only need to do the placement requirements, or sometimes they need to be over 18 in terms of, you know, some risk factors or whatever. So that's something worth looking at probably further down the track, whether or not the Certificate 3 might be available.
Yeah, Greg from Scouts Vic actually said, have you looked at what Scouts Victoria are doing? Because they've been running quite a bit of a different system in Victoria. Are you aware of that system?
Yeah. No. So, no. Is that the Cert 3 they're doing? Or?
Greg, do you want to talk to that?
Yeah, no, we're doing it within schools for the Cert 2. Quite a number of schools, actually.
Right.
But because we're an RTO as well, so we've had it all, it's gone through the whole system. But rather than reinvent the wheel a bit, maybe you should talk to the state office for Scouts down here, because we actually have an education officer specifically on this system.
Awesome.
Right. So they're delivering certificate 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Well,
look,
they're
and
delivering
do
certificate
3
2.
as well. You can do a 3 as well.
Sorry?
You
can
do
do the
Cert
3.
3 as well.
You get the full qual?
Yes.
Sorry, just to butt in there, Greg, we certainly we're not doing the certificate 3 in the schools.
No, we're doing certificate 3 out of.
Yes, so just from that perspective. Yeah.
You'll see that I've put a note there. This is Liz here. You'll see that I've put a note there that there is, I actually have access to the enrolment figures up to 2017, but there was a change in funding in New South Wales for the VET in schools, the certificate 2, in outdoor rec. So we've seen a reduction in the enrolments in that in New South Wales. So again, that comes back to the individual states' choice on how they will fund the programs. So I do know that was affected back in 2017. So it affected the 2018 enrolments because it became really quite expensive for RTOs to deliver to schools.
Right.
In New South Wales.
Yeah, Jeff and Greg, that's great.
I think some of that, Liz, you might be able to add some comments on that, but it might be around some of the risk factors with outdoor and some of the, there's such a wide range of what outdoor looks like under, so many different conditions that might be part of that, Liz, would you think?
Oh, look, it could be part of it, but it was also about the way that the state training authorities and the Department of Education was actually funding those programs previously, I believe. So I think it's that we've all seen a change in how funding is applied to different courses, and that particular one was quite a big change. And it's also some of the people in New South Wales. There was also a change then in the minimum age that somebody could actually leave school. So there was a couple of things that happened at that time in the outdoor rec space, and also the sports, the fitness space, but the sports space as well. People can operate as coaches, can do the Cert 2 in sports coaching and operate as coaches in local communities if they're under 18. It's difficult for somebody who completes a certificate 2 in outdoor rec to operate in the work environment if they haven't yet turned 18. So that becomes a barrier. And certainly the new certificate 2 in outdoor rec is really about building the foundational skills so that they could transition, you're right, a career pathway into certificate 3 because their interest has been tweaked in the certificate 2 while they have to remain at school. So they are a good career pathway. And I don't know that industry has tapped into those people that have done their Cert 2 to see if they can encourage them into traineeships. And that's the opportunity, is to encourage people into the certificate 3 traineeships for this, for the outdoor rec space. That's the opportunity, is to catch those Cert 2 students, encourage them into traineeships because they've already got some of the foundation skills in the outdoors.
And correct me if I'm wrong, ladies, but I mean, traineeships are a great way that businesses can not only assist newcomers, but they actually get funded to do traineeships in their businesses as well.
Yeah, sorry, Sarah, that is correct. And certainly with the post-bushfire and COVID-19, there's a slew of money available for traineeships at the moment. And it could be one way that the outdoor rec people could keep their trainees engaged, because it's hard to keep them, number one, paid and bring them through the COVID process. So I'm sure that there's probably people online who had or have trainees that have either struggled to keep them on or have stood them down for a while. And the other part is that the RTOs are struggling to run the training in this current space, so they're doing online delivery. So but right now there is money available for traineeships to build for post-COVID-19 environment.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Sorry,
Yeah.
Sarah, keep going. We digress. But
Yeah, I was going to say most definitely. Thanks for that, Liz. I think that's why I say it's a very important time in terms of accessing, because obviously that's what the government's doing at the moment, is making a lot of training available. And I'll talk a little bit, I think I've got something coming up where we talk about opportunities to provide feedback on the provision of skill sets or clusters of units to help support the industry in response to bushfire recovery and in response to COVID-19. So there's a whole basket there. That's I have sought feedback on whatever units that the industry would like, whether they're sort of like social media and digital skills or whatever skills that they are, to help support the industry. But as I say, the schools program, Vet in Schools, is definitely something worth looking at, and I'm quite happy to provide a little bit more information on that, maybe at in a month or so time. That would be good. I'll just move on because I'm taking up all of your time. I just put up here, I call this good news because I thought I'll just give you some good news. But this, I mean, obviously, I'm just throwing in a bit of what we call old data. This was how things were supposed to pan out for national industry projections from 2019 to 2024. And I just highlighted arts and recreation, which includes sport, your sector, which is expected growth of 16.8%. So there you go, sits there nice and snug and looks good. Hold that thought. A little bit more, still good news. This was occupation projections for the 5 years, and outdoor adventure guides was expected to grow by 19%. Now, these numbers aren't particularly big. I think that's, let's keep that in mind. They are fairly small numbers. We're talking 1,300 jobs, and this is national. And arts and recreation services industry growing by 14%. New South Wales, sorry, that's me squiggling through there. New South Wales jobs, it was expected 10%. With particular growth, and I did put this in a descending order, but a lot of growth on the Central Coast, the Tweed region, Sutherland, Northern Beaches, Central West and Illawarra are the key growth areas. So keep that in mind as well. The bad news is, as we know, employment's fall, and it's worse in the accommodation and food service sector. So of course, the Skills IQ ITAB is across the services sector, which has been, most severely hit because it's retail, hospitality, sport and the like. So yeah, I did put those in, accommodation and food service. So I think, you guys are operating in that accommodation sector as well with your camps. So, it's kind of like gives you a double whammy together with the bushfires as well, just in case you're not fighting on all fronts, and arts and recreation services. So I just had some figures here, which is, sorry, I had it down the bottom here. It doesn't look as big. Oh, there we go, arts and recreation. So this is the current circumstances, which isn't great. And I think this is just what's been happening in the, I think this is, there's a quarterly figure and an annualized figure as well. So it's just, this is probably what everybody knows, but to see it quantified. I think you might have access to this, Laurie. I think that was part of the other day.
Yeah, for those that will get our newsletter later on today, the report that Sarah sent through was a little bit more detailed, but highlights these figures, and that'll be available in a download of our newsletter. Wow.
Yeah, so you can see that this sector has been particularly hit. Now you are in there with arts as well, and of course the arts sector has just been, devastated. So that was the bad news. And then I just put a little bit in about what we can do about for now and for the future. And a couple of key points there is just to address, I think one of the things when we talked about the school-based programs is just to address the permanent loss of capability and capacity, because what's going to happen is this permanent loss of people to the industry. So, for people who have been stood down or on JobKeeper, JobSeeker, will be pivoting into other areas where there's growth and opportunity, which may be, transport and logistics or community services and health. And how when things actually start to rebuild, how's that going to happen? And again, as you said before, Laurie and Liz, is really looking at those kids that are coming out of schools with Certificate 2, and there's not a lot of them, but again, we need to be promoting these programs so that in a year or two there will be a lot more of them. The other thing here is about how to re-engage with your workforce, your customers and clients. Now, keeping your workforce engaged is really important, and you do that by doing things like this forum. But the other thing is making sure that you're keeping up with your customers and clients. So, maybe you need some skill support in how you do that. And that might be through social media and, all those other skills there, which we can put something together as a package and get funding for that and make it available to your sector. Because one of the things is, I think it's really about communicating with customers and clients about what you're doing, what you're doing to put things in place to make sure that it's safe and that that people want to participate. So that's really about, how you do that. Identifying and access. So this other thing about being on the front foot, and that's to do what you guys do best, and that's to lead. So lead the discussion about, it's safe here. We've got infection control procedures, we're engaging through whatever platforms. And the other point is engaging and accessing training to upskill your existing workforce. So if people are on JobKeeper, I think it's really important that they're accessing whatever free training there is that's available to them. I think that's a very important point to make there. So for people should not be inactive. There's plenty of things to do out there and to access. So again, we said here, upskilling to instill consumer confidence, infection control, online digital skills, and risk management is probably really important there as well. And I'm pretty sure you guys cover that off. But again, it would be about, how can we revitalise that? Because risk control or risk management in the training package under normal conditions, and then there's risk management under COVID conditions. Yeah, so that's accessing available opportunities, identifying skill sets and clusters, and also about this pipeline training for emerging jobs in recovery. And that was really about that school's focus, is that we still, even though, a lot of things aren't happening and it's in a really challenging space, we need to be focusing on where we'll be in 6 months' time when we move into, the summer warmer months and people start moving again. Will we be moving into sort of regional areas? And where will that workforce support come from? So developing that pipeline and also thinking for, 1 or 2 years down the track as well. Okay, what the iTab can do for you. We can keep you informed of opportunities to access funded training. So that's really about promoting what's out there. So please provide me with any feedback. We'd be really keen to put forward stuff to training services. Being your voice to training services in New South Wales Government. Now that is done, and Laurie's doing a great job there for Outdoors New South Wales and ACT in being, in being that voice. And also she provides that voice on our committee, and we share, as Jeffrey will also attest, we all share our experiences and we can leverage off each other, and that's really what it's about. So it's feeding and making sure we're all in the same loop and we're on the same page and whatever, weird thing I can come out with. Identifying risks or issues with delivery of training as well is really important. So at the moment, particularly in aquatics, this thing about social distancing, there's a lot of problems with delivering things. First aid would be the best example of that. Providing updates and feedbacks on training package products. So yes, I talked to Liz. Probably should have caught up quickly before this. Haven't spoken to Liz for a while, but we email and try to keep up to date. Identifying skills needs in response to bushfire and COVID recovery, and joining the rebuilding efforts, I think, and we're all familiar with that, identifying further needs here in regeneration activities. And I've just put a little note there that, the outdoor rec sector is also going to be competing with forestry. So they're, in response to the bushfires down the south coast and in areas of the north coast, the forest areas have been devastated, as everybody knows, and national parks. But there's also that workforce there as well. So when you're looking at, who can do these jobs, when it comes to looking at, what you can access and do in terms of the rebuilding and regenerative activities, you are competing with forestry and national parks people, which is okay. And then the other thing is just promoting and leveraging our activities. And then I make mention at the end there of the Sport and Rec IAC forum that we're planning on holding in the South Coast in November, which we'll be talking about at our meeting next week. And I have to put a little caveat around that because I'm barreling on thinking, yes, we're going to be holding our IAC forums, but I'm an optimist. So,
Keep aiming.
I'm hoping that we are.
Yeah.
Well, Bateman's Bay. Oh, I don't think we're going to Bateman's Bay.
Not the Catalina Club, or
Not at the moment.
No,
But hopefully things will ease. If everybody, sticks to what they're supposed to do, then maybe things will ease. And my last slide is just about me and who I am. And I thank you very much. Is my screen gone now? I was just
not as yet, but I can certainly get rid of that one for you. So
where's it gone?
That's right. I can fix that.
Oh, there it is. There we go. Have I stopped sharing?
You have.
Okay. Thank you.
Sarah, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Has anyone got any questions for Sarah that are relevant to what they're experiencing, or comment for Sarah so that she's sort of hearing from the sector direct about what's actually going on? Is there any feedback? If you can continue typing it in or speak up, but I'll hand over to Jeffrey, who will just talk about his role. So thank you, Sarah. Jeff, you there?
Well, yes, welcome all. Hello all. Look, in reality, I think Sarah's just described a lot of it fairly well. You all know Liz as well. I'm working with both of them, really, in a volunteer capacity. So I work for Scouts Australia, but then I sit on the Sport and Recreation Industry Reference Committee, which is, as Liz has discussed before, is responsible for reviewing and looking at and developing the qualifications right across that sport, fitness, aquatics and community and outdoor rec sector. Now, personally, yes, I come from the outdoor space, so that's where my passion is, but we do look right across all of that. And as many of you would know, with the work that occurred towards the qualifications that were released at the end of last year, lots of consultation has occurred across the industry and through the bodies such as Outdoors New South Wales and the other ones around the country. But then there's that, as Sarah just mentioned, I also sit on that Sport Rec ITAB in New South Wales as just that conduit between that national and the state-based. So being located here in New South Wales, it just makes sense that I'm that conduit between that national one and that state one, even though Sarah has ready access to Liz, who has a lot of the detailed information anyway, because while they're obviously not seeing each other, they work for the one organisation, so there is that ready access. And so for me, while Sarah and Liz are both employed to do that work, there's a whole range of us, and some who you regularly see in these meetings, and others from elsewhere who volunteer time to make a lot of this happen. And so I guess from me, there's a big thank you to both Sarah and Liz for the work they do in supporting the volunteers. But also, we're constantly, when we're going out and asking the industry for feedback, asking the industry for information, saying, can you provide this, can you provide that? Yes, the people who are going out and asking you that are doing that in a volunteer capacity as well. So trying to help the industry. So just keep that in mind next time we're throwing something your way, saying, please, can you provide feedback on X, Y, or Z? Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Like the Atlas New South Wales Board of Volunteers, same thing.
Exactly. Absolutely. No, thank you so much for that. And I think it's important that people understand the structure and actually how this works, because often in the field we don't understand the intricacies behind this. So does anyone have any questions or things they want to raise? Troy, you've unmuted yourself. Did you want to speak to something? Or was that accidental?
No, that's fine, Laurie.
Yep. Okay, cool. No worries. No questions in the chat, so it sounds like you guys have covered all of their questions already, so there's nothing more to cover. But thank you so much for joining us today. I think it's really important, and the things that you highlighted, Sarah, are really something that I've certainly been focusing on since I got here, and it was evident very early on that we need to start saying this is a career to be considered. We need to get interest. We need to market this sector as something that school leavers need to get involved in, and expand, as you said, expand the career path and get some notoriety out there as an option. And I think that's our biggest challenge right now is just getting that action in place of other options that are out there for kids as they leave school. So. Another reminder, there's funding out there for traineeships, and Job Maker will be coming into place. I think, Sarah, is it September?
Yep.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye out. I'll certainly feed some information through as it starts coming about to the sector, but that's something you've really got to keep your eye open for.
I think there'll be more that'll come out on that through the states.
Yes.
That we're not aware of at the moment.
Okay,
so
great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If we know it's there and it's a big basket, but how it's going to be distributed and accessed, we're not so sure about.
Okay.
We can probably provide an update in a month.
Wonderful. Okay, great. So again, keep an eye out for the newsletters and we'll make sure it's in that. So guys, thank you so much. And look, I'll just close today by saying, reiterating something from the start. We have a 4 o'clock happy hour where we get the sector together online, and this is more of a relaxed session. It's a social session. We sometimes talk about works, we sometimes don't. We're going to miss Rhonda, who used to attend those, so if you want to join us today at 4 o'clock, we'll have a drink for her and her family. And thank you to everyone who attended today, and all the best for the week ahead, and we'll see you next Friday. Thank you, everyone.